You're live, but you're not really live. Maybe you're live. Okay. Um, why is this thing not cooperating? Okay. I had, no matter which way I face, it's the wrong way. Um, for those of you who do watch or don't watch, Ugliest House is on again tonight. I had just discovered this show last summer or a few months ago, so I kind of ended up having to binge watch. So it's fresh in my head, you know. And I don't do a lot of these design videos, not just because nobody watches them, but because it's kind of an oversaturated space already with people with weekly tips for things that I will never ever do. In my space, how do I make my face not crooked on the camera? I don't know. Nope. Okay, that's the wrong way. Okay, we're. It's still gonna look like I'm shifty-eyed though because I'm looking. It. I explained this during all my other videos. Ever since I started doing this go live, or maybe before, the camera is now backwards from how it used to be in terms of my motions. So if I want to point at something there, I'm always pointing the wrong way. You'll get used to it once. It'll look less jerky. Anyway, so anyway, an ugliest house, typically what is an ugly house, you know, by American standards nowadays or whatever. They're not just talking about decoration; they're also talking about design flaws. So it gets into a real double bind, and they award so much money for a remodel or revamp or rejuvenation or whatever, pretty decent amount. But then you're stuck with like what they want to do with your house, right? So I don't know, but there's only one winner out of 15 houses per season, and so a lot of these people are, you know, going to be having to do their own. And I feel bad for some of the ones who just bought the house, but I don't feel as bad for ones who've lived in the house for a few years and they still haven't torn out the moldy carpeting. Like, no, you do that first before you bring in your furniture, you know. And wood paneling, yeah, it can be unsightly, but it's not that big of a project to tear that kind of thing out. Anyway, I'm not just going to talk about the program, but I'm going to talk about aspects of the program. And a lot of the things is personal, like subjectivity. You know, they knew that it was this kind of style, but they bought the house anyway, and now they're complaining about it. Whereas somebody else might actually like a lot of that style if it wasn't typically outdated. And so a lot of what they don't like is, you know, paneling, like I said, from the 80s or carpeting from the 70s or the 60s, maybe even worse. Um, Again, usually if you move into a new space, the first thing you do is tear out the carpet and paint the walls, though. So, like, why these people haven't gotten around to do this is, I think, because they want to get on this program, you know. But there's been a couple houses, you know, in particular in the last season that really you know, resonated. And I think a couple of the ones that won were not necessarily the ones who deserved it the most, but the ones that they knew it would be less work. Because again, we're talking cosmetics rather than structural issues, because those are two significantly different things. If you have to, you know, remodel and rebuild huge chunks of the house, it's almost at the point where you just might need another house. Why did you buy this house? You know, again, some of them they buy it sight unseen. They don't know there's all this wood rot or whatever. And there's plenty of shows about that, you know. And I'm not going to get into that. Again, we're talking strictly within the parameters of what can we do with this space to make it pretty and livable. Pretty being again subjective, pretty and livable, as opposed to, you know, if it's a death trap or a muddy pit. Like, we're not going there in this channel. So some of this stuff that was kind of funny, you know, we're keeping it light, not getting, you know, into some of these other issues. Like one of the things, like one of the houses in last season, I think it was, that had like kind of a Japanese, like a third of the house was Japanese, and then a third of the house was just random eclectic, if that's the right word. And then like maybe a third of the house or less was kind of adobe nooks and stuff. And so like the adobe nooks and stuff was not necessarily bad decoration. if more of your house or your whole house was kind of designed like that, right? If you lived in the Southwest instead of the Northeast, perhaps. Whereas personally, I like, in the house where I am, that would make sense. It would kind of fit in with the style of the house. I wouldn't like it as much. I would prefer like the Japanese kind of house with the koi pond and the paneling. And again, this stuff was all installed in the 60s, so it's all dilapidated now. Again, it would need a total rejuvenation to look good and to function well. And there were other aspects of the house, again, that were just beyond belief. Not necessarily beyond repair, but like, so I'm watching a lot of these houses over the seasons and seeing kind of the same thing. Like these people move in and they just don't like this stuff, but a maximalist would absolutely love some of this stuff. Maybe not to the extremes that these houses go, but to a degree. And so I'm constantly watching it going, why are you throwing that away? Like other people would kill for that. Just, find a way to market that or sell that or whatever, blah, blah, blah. As other stuff, on the other hand, just, I'm not going to go there. That's the whole point of the show. You can watch it if you want. Personally, though, I'm not sure like if each room should have a theme. I keep coming back to this because I kind of feel like this room, if the furniture would fit where I want it to, would be all white, coastal cottage kind of stuff, and none of this wood color kind of stuff. Again, I have to point like the wrong way. That is the wrong color for this room, but I have nowhere else to put it. But it goes okay with the globe and the lamp, but it doesn't go okay with the white bookshelves that you can't really see. This is a white bookshelf here. A white bookshelf and a white dresser, and I have other white stuff in other rooms because it wouldn't fit in this room where I wanted it. And the bookshelf with the lamp, you can see, is also white. Okay. And I did not really want white walls. That was kind of a default because it feels like we're treating, the house itself more as a temporary space. When we first moved in, it was kind of a resale idea, but then COVID happened and we're still here. So we never bothered to paint the walls and blah, blah, blah. Now growing up, I mean, I talked about this in a previous video. I won't go on about it too long. I mean, when you're a child, you're subject to the whims of your parents. And I always thought my mother actually had pretty terrible house decorating style compared to other things. And my friends' houses, though, I didn't like their mom's style either. Like my one friend had the couches with the plastic on them, and the plastic stayed on them for at least 30 years or something. And his parents were probably younger than my parents, and they already had the plastic on the couch. And then my other friend, his mom was more bohemian, like baskets hanging on the walls everywhere, and like country kitchen, the little wooden chickens painted that you get at Michael's or something. Not for me either. Like, to me, it was just extra clutter. And I have some clutter, but it's more manly clutter, right? I don't know. But like, yeah, as chill, like, okay, here's the thing. I was going to go into sofas, like big time right now. For some reason, even though this is almost nothing to do with Ugly House now at this point. Whether or not I tie that back, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But like, okay, yeah, when I was a child, we did not appreciate the cost of a sofa, how much that really meant in man hours of your dad at work to get you this sofa. And then the first thing you do is just jump on it and flop on it and sleep on it for, entire weekends watching, Gilligan's Island marathons or whatever. And, of course, I wasn't heavy then, so that it didn't get that sag that I could get, when I was being couch potato home from college on the summer or whatever, watching, Reality Bites and slacker kind of movies and things. But like, I don't know, we had this one sofa. It was brown and the fabric was kind of like burlap, but I loved it because it was actually like just firm enough that you could like stay on it for weeks. Whereas other ones we got since, they would disintegrate much faster, it seemed like. So I actually liked the ugly brown sofa set, and the love seat I actually had in my bedroom for a while until I replaced it with a different one. But yeah, the plastic wrap thing, I mean, like I said, yeah, a kid or whatever, you can destroy a sofa pretty quickly if you're really dedicated to the idea. But on the other hand, expecting a sofa to last for 40 years and putting the plastic wrap on it, like, what's the point? No. The plastic wrap is maybe even uglier than the couch itself. Like, you should enjoy the thing. You should sit. I mean, if you have the one room in the house where you don't sit on it all that much, that's fine. But you still don't need to plastic that over unless you are in a seasonal space and you come to Cape Cod for the summer and then you take the plastic off. Not it's in your living room every day and it's Christmas and the plastic is still on there while you're doing the presents. No, like take the plastic off, live with your space, enjoy your things. What does this say? Horrible looks, yes. Burlap but comfy, yes. Firm couch potato, yes. Okay, did that. So yeah, my house growing up, similar to now, has always kind of been more of a furniture hodgepodge though, because you have two parents who kind of bring their stuff from their old apartments, and then over the years, like you replenish this stuff, but you never quite replace this stuff. We had a lot of weird, when we finally moved when I was, I don't know, 19 or something, like it was like random, like what stuff we even still brought. Like, no, we don't need that anymore. That's from 1972 or something. We can lose that. And so fortunately over the years, finally we lost most of the really outdated things. And so our house was never period piece house like some of the ones on this program where you walk in and it's a time capsule and you're like, oh, okay, I'm literally back in 1968. Like we never quite had that. We always upgraded or updated a little bit at a time, every 5 to 8 years or whatever. So it took a while, depending on the time of the eight. Like I think when we first moved into the one house, I think it was about 7, and then by the time I was like 11 or 12, we had moved some things around. We had definitely gotten new carpet, stuff like that. That was a little too long. I think 3 years would have been better, but I think it was closer to 4 or 5. But again, we remodeled the bathroom, like I said about in the previous video, with the nice wallpaper. We stopped kind of using the one bathroom, so it didn't really need any work, but we, that kind of thing. So it kind of depends on your situation. And we had an extra room, so we always needed extra furniture, but then the other furniture in the one room did last forever until we finally got rid of it. It didn't even break down or anything. We just didn't take it to the new house, as I recall. Because it's not in any of the photos or anything. You'd remember it. It's very distinctive 70s looking kind of furniture, and somewhere along the line it went away rather than coming with us. Even though that was like I said, the furniture that we really used and lived in and beat up, but we didn't put plastic on it ever, and now I'm kind of at the point where I would like a sofa, maybe a leather one for looks more, but really I don't use sofas anymore. I don't know, we kind of transitioned to recliners and just kind of went with that over the years. That way everybody has their own kind of dedicated space. Nobody's kind of smushed on each other. You can kind of set it where you want. You can recline for starters. You can't do that with a sofa unless you're going to lie on the whole thing and take up all the space, right? So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, what this really necessarily has to do with the first part of the video, not much. And I don't really have any like grand. This was more just kind of a fun thing than like advice on what kind of sofa to buy. Like, I don't know. Can you afford a leather sofa? Probably not. If you can, then great. Get a Chesterfield leather thing with an ottoman or whatever. I don't know. but definitely, okay, we'll make this our takeaway. Try and keep your furniture somewhat uniform, even if not by, even if you can't point to it correctly. At least by room, even if you can't paint like a whole jungle in one room and then a whole seashore in the other room and all that, you know. Or if you're in an apartment, like you're just gonna be hating life almost always anyway. So most people in apartments now have like two modes: super cluttered or super tidy. I would say go more toward the super tidy if you want your deposit back. So, you know, like I said, we're just kind of having fun today, getting ready to watch the more ugly of the other people's homes that are enjoyable for all the wrong reasons, I guess. So yeah, if there's any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the comments. All three of you who might get this far, and have a great afternoon.